A concise explanation of the miraculousness of the Qur'an. One time, I had a dream. I was at the foot of Mount Ararat. The mountain suddenly exploded, scattering rocks the size of mountains all over the world, shaking it. Then, a man suddenly appeared at my side. He said, "The aspects of the Qur'an's miraculousness you know, expound them concisely and summarize them succinctly." I thought of the dream's meaning while still dreaming, telling myself, the explosion here symbolizes a revelation in mankind. As for the revelation, indeed the guidance of Furqan, the criterion of truth and falsehood, will be exalted everywhere and will rule. And the time to expound its miraculousness will come. I said to the questioner in reply, the Qur'an's miraculousness is manifested from 7 universal sources. It is also composed of 7 elements. First source. This is the fluency of its wording, arising from the purity of its language, and the shining manner of exposition born from all the beauty of the word order, the eloquence of the meanings, the originality of the concepts, the excellence of the inferences, and the uniqueness of its styles. Combined with this, in the character of its miraculousness is a wondrous embroidery of expression, a unique art of language. Its repetition never tires a person. Second element. A treasure of occult sciences containing all the hidden principles of cosmic events, the obscure mysteries of the divine truths, the unseen matters of revelation, events concealed in the past, and matters hidden in the future. The tone of the worlds of the unseen speaks with the manifest world. It discloses its matters symbolically. Its aim is humankind, a luminous flash of miraculousness. Third source. It has a wondrous comprehensiveness in 5 aspects. In its words, meanings, injunctions, and its knowledge, and the balance of its aims. Its words contain truly vast possibilities and numerous aspects, yet each is the one preferred by eloquence, the most correct in its Arabic and apt in the view of the Sharia. Its meaning, the miraculousness of its exposition was comprised and comprehended at once by the ways of all the awliya, the illuminations of the Arifs, the schools of the spiritual wayfarers, the roads of the scholars of Kalam, and the paths of the philosophers. The breadth of its evidence, the expanse of its meanings. If you look through this window, what a broad arena you will see. The scope of its injunctions. The wondrous Sharia has deduced from it all the principles for the happiness of this world, and the next, all the means of salvation. Its pronouncements at once embrace all the relations of social life, all methods of education, the realities of all conditions. The profundity of its knowledge. It has brought together in its paradise, in the fortresses of its surahs, both the physical sciences and the divine sciences, and all the levels of science, illusions, and indications. Its aims and purposes. It has applied perfect balance and regular sequence, conformed with the principles of the innate nature of things and unity, and has preserved the balance. So, see the marvelous encompassments in the comprehensiveness of its words, the breadth of its meanings, the scope of its injunctions, the profundity of its knowledge, and the balance of its aims. Fourth element. It bestows a luminous effulgence on every age in accordance with its understanding and degree of literacy, and on all the classes of men in accordance with their capacities and abilities. Its door is open to every era and every class within each. It is as though the speech of the most merciful is freshly revealed every instant, everywhere. As time grows older, the Qur'an grows younger, its signs become apparent, it rends the veil of nature and causes the divine address. It sheds the light of Tawheed continuously from every ayah. It raises the veil of the manifest world, cast over the ghaib. The loftiness of its address invites man's gaze to be attentive. For it is the language of the Ghaib, it directly speaks with the manifest world. Its wondrous freshness proceeds from this element, an all-encompassing ocean. The divine condescension to the human mind is for the familiarity of the mind. It is the variety in revelation's style which makes it familiar and the beloved of human beings and jinn. Fifth source. It relates in an original style laden with meaning, as though itself had witnessed them of its stories and narrations and truthful accounts, making their essential points. By narrating, it warns mankind. Its narrations are these: it tells of former events and future events, the secrets of hell and of heaven, truths of the unseen and mysteries of the manifest world, divine mysteries, stories about cosmic relations, clear stories that neither fact has refuted nor logic. Even if logic does not accept them, it cannot refute them, the heavenly books which are revered by all the world. It relates faithfully the points on which they agree and mentions incorrect from the subject on which they differ. These matters issuing from one unlettered was a wonder of the time. Sixth element. It was the founder of the religion of Islam and comprises it. If you investigate time and place, neither the past was capable of producing the like of Islam, nor is the future. This heavenly thread holds the globe in its annual and daily rotations and spins it. It weighs down heavily on the earth and also mounts it, but the earth does not give up its rebellion. Seventh source. The six lights pouring forth from these six sources blend together. From this a beauty becomes apparent, and from this an intuition, a luminous means of understanding. This produces a pleasure known as the pleasure of miraculousness, but our language is inadequate to describe it. The mind too is defective, that celestial star can be seen but not held. For 13 centuries the Qur'an's enemies have desired to challenge it, while it has aroused in the friends of the Qur'an a desire to imitate it. This here is a proof of its miraculousness. Available are millions of Arabic books written in consequence of these two intense desires, which have come into the library of existence. If they are compared with revelation, if they are weighed up, relying on the evidence of their eyes and ears, not only the learned scholar, even the most common man will declare, "This is heavenly, those are human." Moreover, he will conclude, "It doesn't resemble them, it is not of the same class. If so, it is either lower than all of them, and the falsity of this is self-evident. So, it must be superior to all of them." Throughout all this time, its doors are open, its meanings dedicated to humankind. It has summoned to itself the spirits and minds. Man had power over it and laid claim to it, but his meanings still could not oppose the Qur'an. He never could. Now the time of testing has passed. It does not resemble other books. It cannot be compared to them. For it is divine wisdom that is being revealed bit by bit over 20 years in relation to need, in miscellaneous parts. The immediate causes of revelation were various and distinct. The questions about any one matter were repeated and various. The events related to injunctions were numerous and changed. The times of revelation were distinct and different. The conditions it was considering were various and different. The group of those it was addressing were numerous and remote from each other. The aims of its guidance were graded and various. Its structure and expositions and replies and addresses were based on these foundations. Yet, despite this, its smoothness of style and lack of defect, its mutual proportion and harmony demonstrated its perfection. Witness to this is that according to the science of rhetoric, The Quran has a characteristic not present in other speech. If you listen to a speech, you will see the speaker, its owner, behind it, or you will find him within it. Style is the mirror of a person. O dream questioner, you asked for consciousness, so I have made an indication. If you seek detail, it is beyond me. A fly cannot behold the sky. For of the 40 sorts of miraculousness, only one is the eloquence of the word order, and an exposition of it did not fit in Isharat-i Ijaz. My 100-page tafsir was insufficient for it. Rather, from those spiritually inspired like yourself, it is I who seeks your explanation in detail. The fanciful, lust exciting genius style hand of Western literature cannot reach up to the healing, light-scattering, guidance-laden, eternal literature of the Quran. A state of mind pleasing to the nature and perfected with their appreciation of meaning does not gratify the childish, whimsical, and dissolute. It does not entertain them. Due to this wisdom, those raised amid ways, dissolute, carnal, and lusty pleasures will not identify with spiritual pleasure. Looking with the novel-based view of modern literature, which issued from Europe, they will neither see nor experience the elevated subtleties, the majestic virtues of the Quran. Their touchstone cannot essay those virtues. There are 3 areas in which literature promenades. It roams within their bounds. Either love and beauty, or heroism and valor, or depiction of reality. In foreign literature, it does not seek the love of truth in heroism. It rather instills a desire for power by applauding humankind's cruelties. As regards beauty and love, it does not know true love. It injects into the nerves a last exciting thrill. In the question of depicting reality, it does not look on the universe as divine art. It does not see it with its view of the most merciful. It rather approaches it from the point of view of nature and depicts it thus, and it cannot be freed from this. For this reason, what it inculcates is love of nature. It instills in the heart a feeling of materialism from which it cannot easily be saved. Again, that unmannerly literature, both sedative and narcotic, can provide no beneficial salve for the distress of the spirit which arises from the misguidance resulting from the above. It has found a single remedy, and that is its novels and fiction. Books with their dead living, the cinema with its animated corpses. The dead cannot bestow life, and the theater with its reincarnations and ghosts from the vast grave known as the past. It is completely unashamed at these 3 sorts of its fiction. It has put a mendacious tongue in the mouth of humankind, attached a lustful eye to its face, dressed the world in a scarlet petticoat, and does not recognize sheer beauty. If it points to the sun, it puts in the reader's mind a beautiful blonde actress. It apparently says, "Vice is bad, it is not fitting for man." It points out its harmful consequences, but its depictions so incite vice that they make the mouth water and the reason cannot remain in control. They whet the appetite, excite desire, so the emotions no longer heed anything. The literature of the Quran, however, does not stir up desire. It imparts a sense of love of the truth, a passion for sheer loveliness, an appreciation and taste for beauty, an enthusiasm for the love of reality. And it does not deceive. It does not look at the universe from the point of view of nature. It speaks of it from the point of view of divine art, with the coloring of the most merciful. It does not confuse the mind. It instills the light of knowledge of the Maker. It points out his signs in all things. Both produce a touching sorrow, but they do not resemble each other. The literature born of Europe excites a pathetic sorrow arising from the lack of friends, from being ownerless, not an elevated sorrow. For it is a woe-begone sadness inspired by the deep nature and blind force. It shows the world as desolate, not in any other way. It depicts it in this way, holds the sorrowing man there, places him ownerless among savages, leaving him without hope. Due to this feeling of consternation he has given himself, he gradually sinks into misguidance. It opens up the way to atheism, from whence it is difficult to return. Perhaps he never will return. Quranic literature produces a sorrow, but it is the sorrow of love, not of offense. It arises from separation from friends, not from the lack of them. Its view of the universe, in place of blind nature, is as conscious, merciful divine art. It does not speak of nature. Instead of blind force, it describes a graceful and wise divine power. The universe, therefore, does not take on the form of a desolate wasteland. Indeed, in the view of the grieving one it addresses, it becomes a gathering of friends. Everywhere there is a response, from every aspect mutual love, there is no distress for him. The friendliness at every corner draws the melancholy person into society, giving him a yearning sorrow, an elevated feeling, not a dejected mournfulness. Both also give rise to eagerness. Through the eagerness provoked by literature, which is foreign, the nerves becomes excited, the desires are stimulated, it gives no relief to the spirit. The Qur'an's eagerness, however, ignites the spirit, gives rise to a lofty eagerness. It is for this reason that the Sharia of Muhammad ﷺ wants no illicit amusements. It has forbidden some instruments of amusement and permitted some others as halal. That is to say, instruments producing Qur'anic sorrow or eagerness in revelation are not harmful. But if it produces the woe-begone grief of the orphan or carnal thrills, the instrument is prohibited. It changes from person to person. Not everyone is the same. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Two supreme proofs of the affirmation of Tawheed, divine unity, and a point of miraculousness of Surah Ikhlas. In its entirety, the universe is a supreme proof. The language of the God evidently glorifies and declares His unity. It declares Allah's glory and unity with its manifest and unseen tongues. Yes, with the unity of the Merciful One, they invoke in a resounding voice, La ilaha illahu. All cells and particles, its parts and members, are expressions of zikr. Together with that resounding voice, they declare, La ilaha illahu. There is variety in their languages, different levels in their voice, but they become united at one point. In zikr, they say in one voice, La ilaha illahu. This is the macro-human performing zikr in a high-sounding voice. All its parts and particles join their tiny voices to its mighty voice to declare in unity, La ilaha illahu. This world recites the Qur'an's ayat within its circle of zikr. The Qur'an is the origin of its light. All beings with spirits express the thought, La ilaha illahu. This glorious criterion of truth and falsehood is the articulate proof of Tawheed. All the ayat are truthful tongues. They are the flashing rays of Iman. All together they declare, La ilaha illahu. If you lay your ear on the breast of that criterion, in its profoundest depths you will hear clearly a heavenly voice recite, La ilaha illahu. Its voice is utterly exalted, utterly serious, truly sincere, most familiar. It is utterly convincing, decked out with proofs. Repeatedly it declares, La ilaha illahu. All six aspects are transparent in this enlightened proof. Embroidered upon it is the stamp of miraculousness adorned with flowers, In this shines the light of guidance which says, La ilaha illahu. Yes, beneath it is elegant interwoven logic and proof. On its right is its questioning the intelligence. Minds affirm all its delicate sides, saying, La ilaha illahu. On its left, it calls on the conscience to testify. In front is the beauty of good. Its aim is happiness and prosperity. Its key every instant, La ilaha illahu. Behind it, its part is heavenly, unadulterated divine revelation. The six aspects are luminous, manifested in its constellations, La ilaha illahu. Yes, can any thieving suspicion, any stealthy doubt, how dare any renegade ever set foot into this resplendent castle? It is brilliant, its lofty walls are surahs, every word of which is an angel in utterance, La ilaha illahu. The Qur'an of mighty stature is such an ocean of Tawheed. To take a single drop as an example, a single surah, Surah Ikhlas, only a single slight illusion out of innumerable illusions, its 6 phrases, 3 negative, 3 positive, refute all kinds of shirk and at once prove 7 aspects of Tawheed. The first phrase, Qul huwa, is a direct indication, which means it is designated as absolute. Within that designation is a specification, La huwa illa hu. This is an allusion to the Tawheed which is experiential. If the reality perceiving gaze becomes immersed in Tawheed, it says, La mashhuda illa hu. The second phrase, Allahu ahadun, is an explicit affirmation of the Tawheed of divinity. Reality declares in the language of truth, La ma'buda illa hu. The third phrase, Allahu samad. This is the shell of the 2 pearls of Tawheed. The first pearl, the Tawheed of Rububiyyah. Yes, it declares with the tongue of the order of the universe, La khaliqa illa hu. The second pearl, the Tawheed of Qayyumiyyah. Yes, the universe in its entirety declares through the tongue of need for an effectual power, both for its coming into being and its continued existence, La qayyuma illa hu. The fourth phrase, Lam yalid, this conceals the affirmation of the unity of divine glory, rejecting every sort of ascription of partners to God. It decisively refutes this belief. That is, one who is subject to change or division, or who reproduces, can surely be neither God, nor creator, nor self-subsistent. The negation lam, not, refutes the idea of offspring or the blasphemy of paternity and rejects them at once. The greater part of man's misguidance has arisen from this shirk, such that from time to time humankind faces the offspring of shirk with either Isa alayhi salam or Uzair alayhi salam or the angels or the intelligences. The fifth, Walam yulad, an indication to the Tawheed of an everlasting divinity. Thus, one whose existence is not necessary or pure eternal cannot be God. That is, surely one created in time or born of physical matter or descended from a progenitor cannot be the universe's protector. Causality, the worship of stars, idolatry, and naturalism, there are all varieties of shirk, pitfalls of misguidance. The sixth, Walam yakun, is a comprehensive Tawheed. That is, the negating lam infers that he has no like, partner, or peer either in his essence, or in his attributes, or in his actions. Each of these 6 phrases are the spiritual results of the others and proof of the others. The succession of proofs and arrangement of results are all centered in this surah. That is, included in Surah Ikhlas appropriately to its stature are 30 surahs in sequence and order. It is the source of their dawn. لا يعلم الغيب إلا الله.